Hi everyone, I'm Les,
And I'm Ashley.
and you're listening to Anthropotamus, where we explore some of your favorite anthropology topics.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Anthropotamus. Our latest episode, we're going to be discussing The House of My Mother by Shari Frank. For those who aren't familiar with the book already, it's basically about a young girl who wrote an autobiography about her life with her mother, Ruby Frank, and the extremism of all her actions and parenting and how things just went absolutely crazy towards the end. I mean, I first heard I heard a bit about Ruby Frank here or there. I mean, I don't really watch vlogs too often, so I wasn't really familiar with who she was. And then Rod Mango came out with their four-part series on it and brought up this book, and I'm like, let's check this out. So here we are, Ruby Frank.
I'm gonna say it seems a lot like this kind of story is being told over and over and over again, especially in the last, 10 years or so. We just reviewed, what was the other book? That was,
Uh, is that the Duggar book?
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
Counting the Cost. Yeah, very similar story. Obviously, some very big differences there, but similar circumstance being, directly in relation to a what is essentially an extremist religious cult, uh, and the extreme controlling nature that they have on an individual's life. This, I think, was a little bit more people oriented than the religion itself, but it still had a pretty big effect on that, I think.
Right, the use of religion to control their
Exactly.
children and others
Exactly.
because you had oh shoot, what is that crazy lady's name? Oh shoot, was it Judy?
Judy, yes.
I
Judy
mean she
Hildebrandt.
oh God, that woman. I mean she definitely used religion to manipulate people and destroy their lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um and it's reasons like this is why people hate religion so much.
You're right. Situations like this where people abuse the position of power that they're in, where they use it as a tool to not only control, but I think in Judy's in her case, she used it to intentionally inflict harm, though I don't have any proof of that. Like, so there's the book itself has some pretty damning evidence, but it does seem like she was intending to inflict harm for a lot of her career.
This is not in the book. This is actually part of one of the four-part series on Rotten Mango, but they bring up another client of Judy's who she basically did the same thing to them before they did it to Ruby and what's his name? Kevin? The guy's
Evan.
name's Kevin. But yeah, they did the same thing to this guy, accusing him of molesting his children and completely controlled his wife and is she just did the same thing over and over again, and people just kept going with it.
Yeah,
I
that was
don't.
actually mentioned in the book, only briefly, but that was mentioned during the section where
Mhm.
when Sherry was talking about Judy's credentials initially, she talked about how Judy had ruined this other family's life, and specifically this that guy was accused of molesting his child, and um, how she lost her license over it, I believe, before
I
she even
do
came in contact.
remember she lost her license. I don't remember if that was the reason why, and I know she brought up that guy in the book, but I was wondering if that was really the same guy that they discussed on the podcast, because I get the feeling she did this over and over again.
Yeah, I get the same feeling. The invite you to leave thing was pretty strongly promoted by that I don't want to say faction, but like by her group, and her in general.
Oh God, I feel like that. I hate the dad. Like, I feel like he is an idiot. Like,
Absolutely.
Ruby, there's something mentally wrong with her. And I think in the book they refer to her as being a narcissist. I feel like it's more than that. I feel like there's really a lot of mental issues going on with her, and she's a monster.
She
But
is a
at the same
monster.
time, I feel like there is something mentally wrong with her, where it's kind of like one of those people where you're like, well, she's mentally deranged and we just gotta, she's never gonna change because that's just how her brain works. So just,
I think you're giving her too much grace.
God, I
Uh,
mean, I just feel like there's just so much mentally wrong with her that she's just unfixable, right? She's never going to accept what she did. Whereas a dad, I feel like he's just a complete idiot. I'll just say I don't think there's anything mentally wrong with her. I think he's just stupid, and he should not
see,
be allowed to have children.
yeah, I watched an interview with Kevin and Chad talking about their experience in the household and what they went through and all of the intense manipulation, gaslighting, and everything else that was involved in that. And I'm going to be entirely honest with you. I don't have much sympathy for Kevin at all. I don't know if he's stupid. I don't want to say he's stupid, but I think he's a coward for one, and I think that Judy clearly knew exactly what and how to do what she was doing to that family, in, including him. But at the same time, as a an adult man who lives day to day in the same world that they live in, maybe not with the same influences, but in the same world, right? I struggle to understand how he could let himself be put in that position, how he could allow that to continue happening, not just to himself, but to his children. So it would be easy to just say he's stupid and that's why he let it happen, but I don't think that that's really enough. I think he deserves a little bit of vitriol for his actions and his inaction more than anything else.
I just don't understand. Like you see her controlling. I don't think they discuss in this book. They discuss it on, the podcast, the other podcast. She would control like their calorie intake. And I guess if you watch their past videos, they're like, she's like, look at this dinner I made, and it's like not even enough food for the whole family. Um, I think they mentioned it in the book. They go greater depth in other sources, how Chad got sent to that survival camp. And this survival camp is basically they give children limited amount of calories and they send them out to the woods to like fend for themselves. And it's really like child abuse. But I guess Chad actually came back gaining weight because Ruby had controlled his calorie intake so much. Because, teenage boys, they need a lot of food. She was giving like less than 2,000 a day, 2,000 a day, whereas the camp was giving them like 2,000 a day. So it was actually, he came back healthier because of it. But you see these things, right? You see your wife doing all these things to your children, manipulating them, verbally abusing them, controlling what they eat. They're depressed. Sherry brings up having suicidal thoughts, and as soon as she has these suicidal thoughts, her mother takes her out of therapy. Like, I don't understand how you see these things happening to your children and you don't do anything. And then, and I say he's stupid because he's supposed to be an academic, but I guess, and I was going to look this up and I didn't, but the podcast brings up, they looked up, his professor rating, and he has like the worst professor rating out of the entire campus because he's such a bad professor.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I expect, to be honest. From the interview that I watched with him actually speaking on his own behalf, he seemed like a bit of a dim bulb. Maybe he is incredibly intelligent and he's just intelligent in a way that is not going to convey to people. But from the impression that I got from not only the book, but his interview, I just don't expect him to be very good at teaching people or conveying pretty much anything. They talk about him in the book being more of a researcher than a professor, which I think we both understand that there is definitely some of that goes around. There are a lot of professors who much prefer the research itself than, as opposed to doing, teaching classes or something else like that. And that comes through in their teaching abilities, and you can see it in the students when they come out of it. I've seen the opposite happen where you have somebody who's really, really wanting to be a teacher and they just do the research at the university so that they can be a teacher because it's the easiest path for them to do that. And you'll see the same thing, obviously the polar opposite, really, where students are coming out of it with so much enthusiasm for it that they're spending more time researching, they're spending more time doing their own reading, their own work. Overall, my impression of those classes is that you get a better education out of it.
The one thing that bothered me the most about him is during the when you watch his interview with the police after Ruby finally got arrested and he's like keeps asking about his wife. It's like, why are you not asking about your children? And even in the interviews after, he's like, I still love my wife. I'm like, why? She literally almost killed your children. She almost starved them to death and rubbed chili powder all over their wounds. Like, how do you still love your wife? You're spending more time defending your wife than you are trying to protect your children.
I get that he's got a strong, bond to that woman, but it still feels like he's brainwashed. Like, I know he said in one of the interviews that I watched that he would never let her back into his life. But if she were to get out within, a whatever timeline, would fully expect him to reestablish contact. And I wonder if he's not using his children even now as a resource to make that a valid possibility. I'm not trying to make any accusations, but he gives me the impression that nothing matters to him more than what her wants are.
I don't even think that she ever loved him. And I don't remember if this was in the book or the podcast, but she, I guess she had this whole chart tracking these different guys and marking off which ones were best suited to be her husband. And at one point, they were hanging out with a group of people and she's holding his hand. And then she was secretly holding another guy's hand at the same time. And he caught her doing that.
That was in the book.
That was in the book.
That was in the book.
And then I'm like, she obviously never loved you. You just met the check marks on her literal chart she made because she just wanted to get married and have a family because she thought that's what she was supposed to do. Like, she never really loved you. So I was like, how do you have this attachment to someone? And what, they were dating for like 2 weeks or something? That's crazy.
I've heard of people doing that before. Like they meet each other and then they're like, well, when you know, and suddenly they're together. I haven't followed up on any of those marriages, but like I've heard of that happening before. So I guess sure it could happen. But in the book, Sherry basically laid out that that was her explicit plan was to find a man who fit those criteria so that she could do the rest of her life just how she envisioned it, what she was supposed to do, which goes back to being tied to religious expectations and all of that. Those expectations that you have from that faith and the the complex details behind the inner workings of the church, uh, they set her up, and like you said, she probably has something mentally different about her. They set her up, given her personal proclivities, for like the perfect storm of just bad decisions. Just a ton of bad decisions that are affecting everybody's life that's around her.
Well, setting people up for bad decisions, I mean, that really just kind of rolled over onto Sherry when they discuss her life later on as an adult and how she's in this, oh God, how she's in that relationship, not really relationship with, what's his name, Derek. Oh, I hate Derek. That
Derek,
guy,
Derek. I'll bleep it out, but like Derek.
that guy. Oh God, I can't. Oh, he's such like if Derek ever watches this episode, he's never gonna watch this. Let's face it. But Derek, you're a pervert, and I hope you're bald and fat and your wife left you. That I God, and it just like he knew he could manipulate her because of, the way the church raised her. He was like a senior in the church or something. He knew how the church worked, how it raised her, how strict her parents were, and how they manipulated her life, and he used that for his benefit. Oh my God, I hate that man. I don't even know who Derek is, but I hate you. Oh man. I just And then how the church had her leave and they favored him. Oh, so disgusting. And but going back to the whole church thing, I think I don't want to say this is typical of the Mormon, the strict Mormon religion, like the far right Mormon. I feel like a lot of I feel like a lot of this extremism we do discuss, isn't it from the same area? Like I don't feel like the Mormons in California would be the same as the Mormons like in Utah.
I don't know about the Mormons in Utah other than what we've read. I do have a close friend of mine who grew up in the California Mormon church. Uh, let's just say that it's got its own brand of extreme.
But I guess we could say that for any religion because you have, a lot of the extremism and within the Jehovah Witnesses and
Yeah.
Islam and Catholicism. So I don't know. I just feel like it would be a different culture. Like I'm sure it doesn't matter what state you're in, there's going to be
Mhm.
extremism, but I feel like there's going to be a different, I don't know, flavor of extremism, I guess,
I
because you're gonna
mean,
have different cultural influences.
yeah, the more strictly you're adhering to a religious text, right? The more strictly you adhere to it and you take it as a literal translation. They see the world in very stark contrast. This is right, that's wrong. I'm going to heaven and you're going to hell, or whatever their variation on that is. But that's been my experience with people who have these come from these very strict religions and whatnot. Let's get back to the book.
Back to the book. Well, we're
Back
gonna
to the
make
book.
that t-shirt one day.
Yeah, yeah.
I loved um that couple that took her in at that when she came older. What was their name? I think
Oh
he used to be her
man.
teacher.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I can't remember
Oh
their name.
shoot, what is their name? I want to say it's something like Herman or something, but it's not Herman. Anyways, there's I guess I'll wait till Jose stops talking to himself over here. Anyways, there's a part in the book. Oh, and she goes to go get the deed to her car, and I don't. Oh God, I wish I remember that lady's name. Whatever her name was, goes with her. We'll call her mom because she starts calling her mom towards the end. And at the end, I just imagine this look on her face when she just looks at Ruby and is like, "It's time for you to give her her deed back." And Ruby just backs down and gives her the deed. I just know she had that look on her face like, I'm not here to deal with your bullshit and I'm not falling for it. And Ruby knew she wasn't falling for her bullshit. So she just gave up and gave the deed. In that one sentence, Ruby knew, I'm not fucking with this lady. And she got the deed back. And I love that lady. I love her so much for just giving all that love to Sherry and just having her back and not putting up with the crap. Um,
Exactly. There are
so
good people out there.
so God, I wish I remember her name.
Was it Haymond?
Yes, I just found it also. Heyman. Mrs. Heyman.
Mr. and Mrs. Haymond.
Mrs. and Mr. Heyman. They were just like the shining light of this whole story. Um, and she mentions that they had briefly been a part of Connection, so they understood like all the crap that they were spewing was just a bunch of crap. And man, I wish I was there to see that look on her face when she told Ruby give her the deed. Um,
Like, okay, we've had enough of this.
yeah. Oh, and then the whole like relationship with Ruby and Judy and them having an affair. It's like, how do you not like and oh my God, Kevin is in the house while they're having an affair with each other, and he's just turning a blind eye, like,
He was
and
okay with it. He knew what was happening and he was okay with it.
he had to know what was going on. Obviously, your wife doesn't love you. She never loved you, and she's here having an affair with this weird woman who's acting like she's some sort of prophet. Ugh, God, I can't stand that guy.
Kevin,
Kevin
you
and
suck.
Derek. Kevin
Kevin,
and
Derek,
Derek.
this
Kevin's
is a
already
message for you
bald.
guys. Both of you guys, terrible humans. Um,
Terrible human
you're
beings.
terrible humans. I invite you to leave.
Just don't get involved with any more children, please. Just
Oh, geez, they're just the worst.
oh God.
They're
They
the
are the
worst.
reason why extremist religious communities are so
I
messed up.
think Derek is definitely the reason for that. I think Kevin is just
Stupid.
stupid. Yeah, he's socially dumb.
I
He's
don't
not no, that's not even right. No, he's a coward, for one. He knew what was going on. I don't buy it for a second that he didn't know. I don't buy it for a second that he didn't understand what he was doing to his children. I think that he was gratified in certain ways by the way he was being treated. And as long as he continued to receive that gratification that he was looking for, that's all he cared about. The only reason that he stepped back and started trying to repair relationships with his children is because that gratification was taken away when his wife was sent to prison. And what did he do the second that she was arrested? He tried to have Sherry charged with trespassing. Yeah,
like
yeah.
seriously, that's her family home.
He
Your
tried to have
wife's
her.
in jail for
Hmm.
almost killing your children, and you're still there defending her after she almost killed your children and had an affair with another woman and making accusations against Sherry, your child, that you're supposed to be protecting, which you failed to do. So,
Yeah.
ugh, that guy.
The few moments of saving grace for him that Sherry gave him in the book, they they're just not enough.
I give him credit for standing up for her for when she wanted to see a therapist.
He did that one time and then he backpedaled, and when his wife went behind Sherry's back, canceled the meetings, lied to her about it, did we hear anything about it from him? No.
Nope.
No.
And I
No,
feel
we
like if
didn't.
he had, she would have said something in the book because I felt like she never really, I never really feel like really said anything bad about him. Like, I don't feel like she put most of the blame on Ruby, but th
So
those are his children too.
I think he was a passive abuser, is what it comes down to. Ruby was an active abuser and oftentimes an active threat in in Sherry's life. Eh, Kevin didn't need to do anything to be an abuser. All he had to do was stand by. And that's exactly what he did. He stood by and he watched. The only time that he intervened was when he was worried for Sherry's mental health. And then they went to therapy a few times and suddenly, oh, you're cured now. Okay, whatever. I suspect that Ruby probably lied to him about what the therapist said too, and he just sucked that lie right back up because that's what he does. I don't know if he questioned it or not. If he did and he did nothing, that just adds fuel to the fire. He's despicable. He's beneath contempt, is really what it is. I think that's the impression that I got from the book. She will always love her family, but he will always be the one that could have done and didn't.
I feel like it says a lot that she allows him to still stay in her life. I mean, she doesn't call him dad anymore. She calls him Kevin. Um, which, says a lot about how she feels about him as a father, but she's still allowing him to try to be a father.
I think that's
And
a sorry, go ahead.
I feel like that's a lot of forgiveness on her part that he doesn't really deserve, but says a lot about her character.
See, I don't know if that says much about her, so much about her character as well. Okay, so yes, it does say something about her character. Um, but she's credited that to her will to move on, which is, I applaud that. If moving forward to you and living a happy life unaffected by this to you means forgiving and living for what's happening next, I absolutely applaud that, and I think that's the strongest thing somebody could do. But what she said in the end of the book that she sought advice from her church, which, by the way, I don't understand how she can go back to the church for advice ever.
How
But
about
she
to
sought
give her
advice
credit
from her
though,
church.
she did switch churches.
Yeah, absolutely. That's to her credit. She switched churches, found a community that works better for her, and maybe the community itself or the church that she's in now is different and more supportive in the right ways. But it sounded to me like she was doing kind of, this is going to sound bad, but kind of what he did, right? Or kind of what her mother did, really. She was doing what she was supposed to do based on the church. She's supposed to forgive him.
I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong about forgiveness. I think the issue with forgiveness is people always assume that forgiveness means you have to allow that person back in your life. Forgiveness is supposed to be so you can move on and not have that anger or sadness in you all the time because it's exhausting when you have very negative feeling towards somebody all the time. So that forgiveness is supposed to help you heal, but forgiveness does not mean that those actions are excused and that person can come back in your life. So I don't like if it was me, I think I feel like I would just be like, okay, this is how you are and this is what happened and I'm gonna move on with my life and you're just not gonna be a part of my life anymore. Like, so
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I would be too. Just once you're at that point, I can forget about somebody and I can let go of the emotions attached to that person or whatever actions. But I think you're absolutely right. You don't have to let that person back in.
mhm.
I think the healthiest thing would be to just live for what's coming next. But if she is genuinely happy to have him in her life, good for her. I think that he doesn't deserve it. I don't, you know, give him much, if any, credit for his ability as a father. Yeah, I suspect that he would still go back to Ruby even now.
I totally think he would go back to her even though she's basically in love with Judy and
Well, she flipped on Judy real quick at the end there.
well then, oh, I don't think this might have been the podcast, but after they've been in prison, like I guess, after they go to prison, I guess they were separated for a while, and some inmates um, ran into Judy. I don't know if it was her cellmate or what, but then Ruby's like, "Oh, you saw Judy? Did she say anything about me?" Like, this is after the trial, and then there's like this photo of them doing some yoga breathing practices together. It's weird. Like they're basically st looks like they're still in a relationship after they got into prison together.
They shouldn't be in the same prison.
I'm pretty sure they were. There's a photo of them doing some yoga with their hands on each other's chest, and then um there's like a board in the whiteboard in the background where people put little quotes or affirmations or whatever to like heal. And in the background, there's like, you know how they always talk about truth and finding your truth or whatever their saying was? It's like written on the whiteboard in the background, and it's based off the wording. It's obviously something they wrote. But I don't know if they're still in prison together because I don't know when this book came out. This book came out this year, right?
Yeah, I think so.
The podcast just came out this year too. So, or the other podcast, Rotten Mango. But no, they still got something going on.
That is disappointing to me.
I don't. I I think it's expected.
See,
I think they're just both lesbians, and they came from a community that was like being a lesbian's a sin. You're going to hell, so they just forced themselves to be with men, and
hmm.
yeah.
I mean, what was that? There was a part in the book where she described Ruby's diary and complaining about doing things for Judy, but not receiving reciprocal stuff, and it's just like she wanted to be in that relationship. She wanted to be in a relationship with a woman where she was being abused. And
I don't know if I would say she was being abused. I think she
well,
just
I think she was in a lot of ways. I think that Judy was like her MO is to always target a man and wife and to alienate the husband from the wife, split them up, specifically doing that, right? I think that Judy's personal proclivities, they just complemented each other so much that it naturally took it to a second step. But I also think that Judy was always too repressed to allow herself the other side of things. Because if she was an active participant, that would mean that she could not be godly.
Maybe it's kind of like I've met men who are very, how do I say this? I
Just say it.
have,
It's okay.
in the past, I have heard men from different cultures tell me that if you are giving it to the guy, you're not the gay one. You're only the gay one if you're the one taking it. So maybe it's kind of the same
I've
mindset.
heard
I
that
don't
too. I've
know.
heard that too, and
No, you're
I
gay. You're
gotta
gay either
say,
way.
I gotta say, hey, you know what? There's nothing wrong with being gay. Just, don't lie to yourself about it. It is what it is. There is no loophole to get out of gayness.
I mean, we did have that I think one of our first episodes when we talked about homosexuality. I can't remember which country in Africa where it was
Oh,
these men who had those relationships, but they were still married, but because they were married, they weren't gay. It's like, no.
is that
I
how it
mean,
worked?
yeah, like as if you were married, but you were having sexual relationships with men, it wasn't gay. They weren't considering it gay, but it's like, but if you're physically attracted to men and you're having sex with them, that's being gay. But maybe it's just because, it's different cultures and we give different definitions to sexuality. I don't,
Am I remembering the wrong episode? Because I want to say it was non-reproductive sex was considered to be acceptable in this specific culture. I don't know if it was the same episode or not, but
I'm not sure. I mean, this was a few years ago when we read this and did the
yeah,
episode.
that's true.
But essentially, I remember it was these men, they were married, and I think they were where they worked, they had to live somewhere else away from their family to
Oh,
work.
that's right. Yeah.
Right. So like the men they lived with, they were having sexual relationships with. But
You know what? Labels, right?
I hate labels. And I'm gonna probably get heated. I don't know, we might have negative comments for me saying this, but I feel like the newer generations label things a lot. I'm like, we don't need to label things. Why is there labels for everything? To me, it's like just be with whoever you want. Like, as long as you're not a murderer or rapist or puppy kicker, like,
Yeah,
who
no puppy
cares?
kickers.
Like, I don't know, puppy kickers. Like, I don't care what you are. If you don't pay my bills, I don't care. Like, oh, I hate labels. Just be who you want to be. Uh,
Exactly. I feel the same way. I do.
I just,
Just
it's too much emphasis on labels. Just be with whoever you want to be. Don't torture children. I don't know
yeah.
what else to
Yeah, I
tell
think we can
you.
agree on that. So the Ten Commandments, don't torture children, don't kick puppies, murder's bad.
I know, right?
What else? What can we add to that?
Don't step on kittens. I don't
Don't
know.
step on kittens. Yeah, you know what? I don't know why I didn't think of that.
No,
Yeah,
we're
no,
totally
and
off
stop
topic
labeling things.
again.
That's right there.
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of, and this book, it really discusses, I mean, it's her autobiography.
Hmm.
So it discusses a lot of things that are not like in the Hulu documentary or the Rotten Mango series. And I think the Rotten Mango series they purposely didn't bring this stuff up because they were promoting the book. Like every episode was like, buy her book, buy her book.
Right.
And this is why, because there's stuff that happened to her that no one else is talking about, like Derek. Ah,
Hmm.
fucking Derek. Um,
Derek, you suck.
yeah, I mean, if you've kind of invested, like I've watched the documentary. I've listened to all 4 episodes of Ron Mango. We've listened to the book. So much happened with that family. And it's funny that we're talking this and it's all, Ruby was the one that did all this stuff, but we haven't talked too much about her because I just feel like she's psychotic. There's something really mentally wrong with her. And I mean, you can't,
I think it's a
I
very
mean,
specific type of ailment, and I'm not gonna give her any kind of excuse for
mm-mm.
that either. I think
She
that
should not be around children and she needs to be locked up. But I do think that because she's so mentally messed up, she should be researched.
maybe, maybe it'll help.
Help
Yeah.
future people. Yeah.
Okay. I want to sum up my interpretation of the book.
Kevin is stupid.
Kevin's stupid. Um, hopefully you get smarter, buddy. Um, sucks. Was it Greg? Not
Derek.
Greg. Derek. I don't even remember your name.
That's how
Derek.
useless and worthless you are.
Terrible.
Uh,
Derek. He's awful. In at certain points, I would even say that Chad showed his Chadness
when
in
she went to
whatever
visit
when she
him.
went to visit him. He was very much what I expect a Chad to be.
Okay, but to be fair, they started brainwashing him when he was little.
Yeah, it's not his fault, but also like, dude, you've been here this entire time. You've been talking to your sister this entire time, and you turned your back on her. Like, I don't care if you were brainwashed. You messed up. You messed up. Is what it is. You got something to atone for. So I'm not gonna say he's worthless like, Derek or stupid like Kevin, that he had some justifications on why he acted the way he did, but he's still messed up. Black mark on your record, Chad. And then just to kind of really sum it up, Sherry in this book shared some really deep insights about her mental health and her experiences growing up. Her experiences in that household and the abuse that she suffered as well as witnessed, the brainwashing that she suffered, the grace that she showed by not only forgiving Kevin of all people, but her brother, and even being able to step away from her anger towards her mother, her abuser. I would say nothing other than she is an incredibly brave woman, and I wish her the best.
And Mrs. Heyman.
Oh, right, Mrs. Heyman. That was Mr. and Mrs. Heyman. You guys rock.
Yeah, they were angels. I love them. I don't know who they are, but I love them.
The best kind of people.
Best kind of people. And I feel like um, we talk about extremism in religious groups and how they can harm people, but I feel like, Mr. and Mrs. Heyman is really, the type of people we want to see who are, have strong faith and are how we would hope people who believe kind of, you know, what's
Yeah,
the word I'm looking for? Turn out.
yeah. I mean,
That's the
so
type of person you should be.
that's the kind of person that you want in your life.
hmm
I
I can
think
just feel like
it's
when people are trying to be religious, that's the type of model you should strive for, not like this
be
Derek
good,
and Ruby and,
be
you
good,
know,
don't act good.
don't ignore when people are being abused and blame it on the victim.
Yeah, yeah, the church itself there, huh?
hmm
Yeah. There's so many things about just religion in general that I admire. Like, and I've read about many different religions, some of which I have great respect for. And I should also say ideologies. I tend to lean more towards ideologies and religions. Those are the kind of people who, and I should say, Mr. and Mrs. Hammond are the kind of people who make it a tempting prospect, even for somebody like me. If there were more people like that that I knew, probably would have been I would have had a very different life.
Well, everyone, thank you for listening to our latest episode. If you missed it, we're discussing The House of My Mother by Shari Frank and her life, what it was like with living with Frank and the abuse she endured. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and YouTube. And if you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye. Thank you all for listening. Distribution of Anthropotamus is in collaboration with the American Anthropological Association. Please continue to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Anthropotamus for our latest episodes, show notes, and book discussion schedule.